Okay. Now I'd like to welcome John Sadowsky to the stage. John is an author, also a professor at Grenoble Business School, and he talks a lot about social media, using storytelling in social media, how to engage our community. So I'd like to welcome John to the stage. Thanks, John.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Hello. As you can probably see, I'm not a young guy with an internet startup. It's been very interesting to hear these stories. I have to tell you, I made a presentation for tonight. I made it yesterday or the day before, and there are a few places in this presentation where it backs up. I want to go back to a previous slide. And I've never done that before. You know, I've done conferences, hundreds and hundreds of conferences. I've never backed up. And the first thing that happened when I came in was they said, I hope you don't have to back up any of your slides. So I'm going to try to do this without backing up, and I think I can. But let's see. I guess if I press this, we go forward. Yeah? Okay. Well, I'm not here to promote my book, but this is the name of it. And in the research for this book, I did a lot of interviewing, and I met a lot of companies, traditional companies, internet startups. And the book is about managing a community, although that's not in the title. I say it's about email, social marketing, and the art of storytelling. And, you know, there aren't that many people doing this well, using all of these things to manage a community, and particularly the art of storytelling. So I'm going to try to give you a little different perspective on how I see managing a community after doing all the research and writing this book, and then being on the conference circuit for a while, talking to lots of companies. You know, the subject for tonight, what the Socified people asked me to talk about, was this concept of community and how you manage a community. And, you know, I happen to really like the definition of a community as a group of people that refer to each other as us, as we are doing this. You know, I think that's a very interesting definition. Another one that I like, particularly because of my background, is I think a community is a group of people that share the same stories. They share the stories and they find meaning in those stories. So what I want to do tonight is talk about three things. The first one is community. The second one is social media. And the third one is storytelling, because I think all of these things are related and they all are intertwined, and they all play off each other. But I'd like to start by saying, you know, we really could, and somebody mentioned this in one of the questions, there really were communities long before social media. So I'd like to talk about, you know, you could replace social media with any forum for interaction. So, what is a community? To me, a community is based around storytelling. Now, there are lots of definitions, but if you think about it, I just took a few examples. You know, traditional society, people sitting around a campfire, and what do they share? Other than the desire to be warm, they share the stories of how they're organizing their lives and how they're getting along and how they're hunting or fishing or whatever else they do. And, you know, communities evolved over time, but really, a group of people who come together around a story. These happen to be people, Greek philosophers, coming together around their stories of philosophy, and they start a school of philosophy. You know, I really think the key is they consider themselves a group because the stories that they tell give meaning and they share that meaning. This is Elaine's Restaurant. Maybe some of you know this place. This is a place in New York where Woody Allen used to go until it closed a few years ago. And the thing about Elaine's Restaurant is the people who went to Elaine's, they went there because the artists were there, because the politicians were there, because the writers were there. And they shared an experience. They shared the experience of Elaine's. And I once heard Woody Allen in an interview say that one of the things that we shared was the food was relentlessly horrible. But there were always people around who shared their stories and their experiences. And, you know, I think the people who congregated around Elaine's and told their stories were a community as well. And, of course, sports teams. You know, sports teams. This happens to be a group of people interested in the Netherlands and how the Netherlands is doing in football. And you can see they're all wearing orange. But all of these people wearing orange and interested in and sharing the stories about football, their traditions, their how's the team doing today. They're sharing these stories obviously, a lot of these things exist today on the internet as well. But these are all traditionally communities. And that's why I think storytelling is so important. And I think what people haven't realized yet, from my perspective, what people haven't realized is how important storytelling is in managing a community. So I want to talk about social media and storytelling. And I want to give a few examples. And, you know, the book is full of stories, these kinds of things, that I just kind of picked up or knew about or picked up in interviews. I have to say one thing before I talk about Starbucks. I may say some things about Starbucks that could be perceived as negative things. Starbucks, I'm a big fan of Starbucks. I like Starbucks a lot. Starbucks is a former client of mine. I helped them on a few projects. When I go to the US or the UK, I have my Starbucks card, and I'm a member of this community, in a sense. At the same time, I think they don't manage their community that well. So I want to focus on this example. Starbucks has a huge community. There's another company called Dunkin' Donuts, right? And this is one of the places I wanted to back up because I want to contrast the two. But if you can keep these in your head, Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts have communities, they're competitors, and by the way, I like both of these companies, but I just want to analyze a little bit kind of what they're doing, okay? If you look at the number of fans, and I looked at this yesterday, I'm not sure how this graph came out, but yesterday, Starbucks had somewhere between 29 and 30 million fans on their Facebook page. Okay, so if you say that's, you know, that's just the number of fans on the Facebook page, Dunkin' Donuts had about 6 million. All right, so one would look at these numbers and one would think, well, you know, Starbucks is really much more effective at building a community than Dunkin' Donuts is. But let's look a little closer. Let's go behind the numbers, because I don't think the numbers tell the whole story. There's a couple of things we should look at. One of the distinctions I often make is the distinction between enlisting and another concept that I call engaging, okay? It's relatively easy today, and I think most of you realize this, it's relatively easy to get people to like your page. Yeah, you get people to like a page, and there are lots of ways to do that, and lots of ways that you probably know as much or more about than I do. But I always, when I consult with clients, I always talk about, you know, are you enlisting or are you going beyond enlisting to engaging? So let's look at an example of that. I don't know why this is happening, you guys. Is that? Oh, can I do it from here? No, I'll do it from here. That's what I'm used to. Okay. Look at Starbucks again and look at Dunkin' Donuts again. Okay? Do you see a basic difference between these two pages? And I think there is a basic difference. I guess I'll tell you the end of the story. The end of the story is I see Dunkin' Donuts as a company that's far better at engaging its fans than Starbucks, even though Starbucks is much more effective at enlisting them. Why? If you look at the Starbucks page and you look at the Dunkin' Donuts page, I always ask this question: who is the hero of the story? Because I think, and I ask this question in a lot of different contexts, we like to think that we are the hero, our brand is the hero, Starbucks is the hero. The key to doing this, and I think the key to managing a community, is making the community the hero of the story. And I'll talk about various ways to do that, and this is the kind of thing that I've worked with quite a few companies on. I think if you look at Starbucks, what you see on their website and on their Facebook page, and again, I'm not doing this to be critical, but Starbucks communicates around Starbucks, who we are, stories of identity, and that's very important. But I think if you look closer, it's always about us. It's about our employees. It's about our community, okay? If you look at Dunkin' Donuts, when Dunkin' Donuts, on their Facebook page and on their website, it's very often about the community itself. It's about making members of the community feel like the heroes. And if I go a little further, these are photos taken the other day from Dunkin' Donuts page. And Dunkin' Donuts always has a different fan of the week. And the fan of the week could be anybody, but the fan of the week tells her story. This happens to be one that I like. But the point is this, and this is, I wanted to back up a little bit here, but I'll do it without backing up. You know, if it's very easy to get people to join things, it's not very easy to get them really to advocate for something. So one simple way, if you think about Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, how does Dunkin' Donuts get people to advocate? Dunkin' Donuts gets people to advocate by making them the hero. And this is where social media really comes in a lot. The person who's fan of the week, or the person who wins a contest, or the person who gets her picture on Dunkin' Donuts' website, what happens to that? It goes out to all her friends. And that becomes what Dunkin' Donuts calls a product plug. And what they try to do, they have a very definite strategy. And if you talk to their people, they will tell you this. Their social media people say, you know, our goal is to turn our fans into online celebrities. For two reasons. That's what makes them feel like stars. And when they feel like stars, what do? They send it to all their friends. Okay? So the goal to me should be not so much about getting people to join, because I think we need to talk about what's the true value of a fan. You know, the value of a fan that just joins and doesn't do anything and doesn't interact very much and doesn't throw it out to his friends is not very much. So how are we going to calculate the value? I think we're just, in my research, we're just at the beginning of being able to do this. And one of the concepts that I like is a very new concept called social currency that maybe some of you have heard of. And I think social currency, there's no clear definition, but I like to think of it as how effective is a company at engaging its stakeholders in its growth and sustainability. Okay, so how much are they engaging their stakeholders? Not only how many fans do we have, not only how many people are in our community, but how effective are we at mobilizing these people? So I'll give you two facts about Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. And remember, Starbucks has some 29 million fans and Dunkin' Donuts has some 6 million. Okay? The first fact, in 2010, people at large, not fans, but people at large in the community were 50% more likely to hear good things about Dunkin' Donuts than about Starbucks. That's a very interesting statistic to me, because what are your fans doing? Your fans, if they're advocating, things like this should be happening for you. They should be, the public at large should be hearing things, positive things about you at a faster rate than your competitors. So I think it was the first indication to me that maybe Dunkin' Donuts is better at engaging and getting the community to advocate. Second one is this, and I found this remarkable as well. This was also a contest from 2010. Dunkin' Donuts had a very simple contest, and the contest was, send us your picture or post a picture of you drinking iced coffee in winter in the cold in an unusual situation. Okay? So this contest generated 4 million product plugs. What's a product plug? A product plug is getting it on the social networks and people send it out to their friends and they tell their friends and they send it around, okay? This is much more effective than anything Starbucks has ever done and than most companies have ever done. Why? Simply because they're turning the members of the community into the heroes of the story. So, how is Dunkin' Donuts making its fans more valuable? It's the things I've already talked about, but just to review, they turn them into celebrities, and people want to be the hero of their story. When they are the hero of their story, that's when they share the story, and that's when you get the product plugs. Okay? So, without going backwards, a few points to consider. I think if we're out there, and generally, not just startups, but anybody who's managing a community, think about engaging rather than simply enlisting. Because I think we need to go beyond just collecting lists of fans. How engaged are your fans? And try to find ways to measure that. Tap into the emotion of the brand community. And again, you know, when I interviewed people and I found what the best companies were doing to write this book, that was a common theme. They were tapping into emotion. And the thing that surprised me, one of the things that surprised me the most, was you have some very traditional companies and some companies who don't have sexy or trendy products who were finding ways to tap into emotion. So I always look for that. I always look for how much are we tapping into the emotion of the community. Turn the community into the hero. So I won't go over this again because that's what Dunkin' Donuts turning their fans into online celebrities and turning them into heroes, and that's what gets the fans to be advocates. So those are the kinds of things I want to leave you with tonight. Just a little insight about using storytelling to build a community. But what I'm finding is it's not so much about telling our stories, it's about getting fans to share their stories. And it's about getting the people who like you to become advocates because you make them feel like the hero of the story. So if you want to find out a lot more about this, you can read my blog and my website and whatever. Or even buy the book. The book's not bad, really.